So there's a seat over here, some cushions and a mat there. Okay, yeah, so really, really warm welcome from me. My name's Gaurav Vivati. So we're on week 2 of the meditation challenge, and if you don't know about the challenge, then welcome to the challenge. You're on week 2. So every January, we're trying to support you to set up a regular meditation practice. So there's morning meditations online via Zoom that some of you might have been participating in, and then every weekday and Wednesday we're looking at a particular aspect of meditation and following through a sort of system of meditation to help you, in a way, to give a framework to your meditation practice and to give you little pointers to sort of take your meditation practice deeper and to get more satisfaction and fulfillment from your meditation practice. So we're following through a particular system of meditation called the system of practice. And last week we talked about integration and sort of gathering up the disparate parts of ourselves and becoming whole, so that sort of the whole of us can wholly attend to our experience. And tonight, in the second half, Satya Manas is going to talk a bit more about the second sort of great stage in the system of practice, which is to do more with like our emotional world. It's traditionally called emotional positivity, but Satya Manas will sort of unpack that and sort of recapitulate it. I'm going to say a little bit more about integration, and we'll do a practice of the Metta Bhavana in this part of the class before the tea break. But what I wanted to do first was I wanted us to have a period of lying down. There's a very particular way that we lie down at the Buddhist Center in a meditative way. So we lie down in semi-supine. So you lie with your knees bent and your feet flat on the floor in a sort of thin cushion under your head. And it's important not to direct your feet towards the Buddha. So what I'd recommend is that you put your feet in the direction of the door that we came through. And just shuffle around so that there's space. If you don't want to lie down, it's fine to stay sitting. But if you want to and you can lie down, then just fill the space and move around a bit and just find a comfortable way to lie down. But like I said, if it's not comfortable to lie down, then just stay sitting. So I'm going to lead us through a body scan, and I'll lead that as if we're lying down, but for those of you that are sitting, you can still just follow the body scan through. And I forgot to say welcome for those of you joining us at home. Really, really warm welcome. And you can lie down as well. Probably much easier for you to lie down than in our busy shrine room. So just follow the same setup where you're lying with your back flat on the ground, your knees bent and your feet flat on the floor. And you can bring your hands onto your lower belly. This can be quite a nice way to just center your attention down in the body. You know, often when we come to the Buddhist Center or when we join the class online, we've often most of us schedule our days sort of back to back, and we're often quite full with commitments or people, tasks. And it's really easy to just carry that sort of doing energy into the meditation practice. So lying down can be a really good way to transition into a different mode. A bit of a sort of deeper mode of being in the body and also letting go. So when you're lying down, you're not needing to hold the body up. So you can close your eyes if you feel comfortable with your eyes closed. And just start by feeling the weight of your body on the ground. you can have a sense of your head just resting down onto the cushion. And allow your head to be heavy. Let the back of your neck be long. Let the throat soften and relax. And you can also just let your face soften and relax, so all the muscles around your eyes. Soften your cheeks. And release your jaw. And see if you can feel the shoulder blades just sinking down into the ground. The upper arms and elbows also heavy. Your hands soft on your belly. And as you breathe out, imagining that you could just breathe your shoulders down, often carrying a lot of tension in the shoulders. It's like our whole to-do list is in the shoulders. See if you can just let go of all of that. And just scanning down your back, let your lower back release. And just feel the weight of your pelvis on the ground. And just giving the weight of the pelvis over to the ground. And allowing your belly and your thighs to soften. And feeling your feet and your contact between the soles of the feet and the ground. And just imagine the soles of your feet just opening. And with each exhale, the feet just releasing down. So all the parts of the body that are in contact with the ground, your feet, your pelvis, elbows, shoulder blades, back of the head. As you breathe out, just imagine those points just sinking down to the ground beneath us. And as you breathe in, feel how the inhale lifts and opens the belly and the chest. On the inhale, an opening, and on the exhale, a letting go. And just bring your attention now down to the lower belly and just feel the breath in your lower belly. And see if you can make the connection between the breath in the belly and the breath across your chest. And you might want to bring one hand onto your chest, one hand on your belly, so you've got that connection between the breath down in the belly and the breath through the chest. And start to bring more of your attention now to the chest and start to gather your awareness around the heart center. And use the breath to help you just touch into the heart center with the breath. On the inhale, a sense of spaciousness and an opening. And on the exhale, a letting go and a release. When you get distracted, feeling back down into the body and using the breath to just touch into the heart center. And now just staying still, and you can keep one hand on the belly, one hand on the heart, but just releasing your efforts, letting your mind just rest. And in a moment I'll ring the bell, and when I ring the bell, if you're lying down, you can roll over on your side towards the Buddha, And using your hands, you can push yourself up and come up to sitting. I'm not going to say very much. I think that period of lying down is a really good way to sort of lead us into the Metta Bhavana, because often when we're doing the Metta Bhavana we can sort of, I don't know about you, but sort of gear ourselves up to be sort of doing something and producing metta, and we're going through these 5 stages, and there's the phrases and there's this sort of concept or this notion or a remembrance of love and wanting to generate something, and it can all get a bit tight, and then you can try and then think, oh, actually, do you know what? I'm not going to do it. I hate the Metta Bhavana. Or you can just sometimes sit and just cultivate sort of hatred rather than love, which is a common one, isn't it? So it connects in really to this first stage of integration and sort of wholeness. So I think when we're lying down in the practice, like then it's this feeling, I don't know about you, it might not have felt like that in a crowded room, but often when we lie down it's this feeling of you're not sort of like doing something, we're just lying down. And in a way, there's something of that we can bring into our meditation practice as well. So we are doing something in meditation. It's really, really good to cultivate effort and interest and sort of remember our intention, but it's also really important to have this feeling of openness and relaxation in the practice as well. And often we can be weighted sort of in one direction or the other, and I think most people actually sort of over effort. They sort of make too much effort, and then that doesn't work, so then they sort of drop all the effort. So what we're trying to find is this beautiful sort of balance of being really, really vibrantly relaxed, alert in the body, but not sort of holding our experience too tightly. And when something comes up which feels like an obstacle to meditation practice, we can get bigger and we can hold it in this sphere of loving awareness rather than sort of constricting and getting really tight and trying to push it away. So that's where the integration comes in. It's where we're trying to be whole and include all of ourselves and almost get really, really, really big. So we're a really, really big container. We're not sort of trying to limit ourselves in meditation and just sort of inhabit this really small part of us, which is like really, really spiritual and concentrated. We're trying to include all of us and sort of transform and unite all of our energies. So there's this wonderful symbol in Buddhist, kind of mythology or Buddhist scripture, which is the symbol of the Vajra. So some of you will have come across this before, and it's a really, really good symbol of integration and opposites uniting. And it's we don't have an image of it here, but you'll see it in the bookshop. There's little mini Vajras, and it's said to be like a diamond thunderbolt, and it sort of looks like a circle in the middle, and then these two sort of spikes, lots of spikes coming out and sort of uniting together. And it's said to be the unification of opposites, and to be sort of as hard as a diamond and as sort of potent and sort of almost like creatively destructive as a lightning bolt. And we can use that as an image in a way for ourselves in meditation practice, that you might think when you come to do the Metta Bhavana that if you come up against hatred, like often we come in the first stage, we often struggle with that stage and feel a lot of self-hatred, can get into really unhelpful stories that like, oh, I can't do this practice, I don't like the Metta Bhavana, I want to do the mindfulness of breathing, I've had too much of a busy day to do the Metta Bhavana, it's too much to think about. Actually, when we try to cultivate something like love, what we come up against is hatred, because we need to bring the energy of that into the practice. It's not that something's gone wrong, and that's where this symbol of the Vajra is really helpful, because it's love and hatred united, so they sort of fuse together and completely disappear into pure energy. And you can have those experiences in meditation when you come into relationship with those opposing forces, that there's something really, really, really powerful in that we don't want to push away, but we want to include with this really loving, really aware, bright mind and heart. So that's where integration can is essential, basically, because in practice we need to be whole. We talk about being wholehearted. You can't love wholly if you're not a whole person, if you're cutting parts off of yourself. And sort of counterintuitively, loving really fully is coming into relationship with our own hatred, feeling the burn of our own hatred and allowing that to sort of come into the light and sort of oxidize and sort of burn out in a way. So you might come up against, like while you try to cultivate concentration or love, you might come up against sort of disintegration and hatred. Don't be put off by that. Use that, it can fuel your practice. So what I'd recommend when we come to do the Metta Bhavana just now is try and feel that sense of wholeness in your body that you might have touched into when we were lying down. Almost that feeling of like, relaxation. So when something comes up which feels like an obstacle, relax. Sort of welcome it into your experience, even if it's really undesirable. Feel it, the energy of it. So often for me it will be like planning, busy life, emails, blah 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 blah, and I think I've got to do that, and I think no, don't plan, you're supposed to be meditating. Instead, what I could do, what I'm recommending that you do when you notice that sort of obstacle or the thing that you don't want to come into the meditation, is try and get beneath the story and feel the energetic patterning of it. For me, with planning, there's often anxiety underneath it, and the feeling of it is that I'm rushing forwards. Or with hatred, there's actually just I can often just feel like a tight fist around my heart. And so then I breathe this really kind love into that. Like, what does that feel like? It's actually really painful. Can I be of that? So and then when I'm with the pain, it's like, there's loads of tenderness. And then actually it's like, it's not just a fist. There's loads of tenderness. And actually my heart's like this tender steak or something. Drew's like, no, not a steak. But it feels like fleshy, Whereas before it just felt like a stone. So it's like, no, it's alive. And then, so we can have all these sort of, in a way, that's how you transform hatred into love. And that's how you transform distraction and sort of scattered energy into pure focused concentration. It's not by knocking it out, it's by gathering it in, coming into relationship with it, and not taking it too seriously, like not getting really caught up in that story, but sort of getting underneath it in a way. So we can't sort of like jump over, like we might sit with hatred and disintegration and scatteredness. What we want is love and deep connection and concentration. In order to get there, we've got to go through our experience. We can't just jump over it and bypass what's happening right in our present experience. But our present experience is the way to get there. So it's counterintuitive, but once we start doing it, there's literally no other way. Like, you're not going to reach a state of happiness and love by jumping over your current, like exactly as you are now, this Wednesday evening, with the mind that you have right now, the heart you have right now, all your conditioning, all your stuff that you're trying to work on. It's like all of that is going to come with you. You need to sit with that and shine this warm, loving light and just be really whole with all of that, and it will be the container for transformation. So the Buddha, that's what the Buddha did. The Buddha sat with his experience in such a sort of courageous way. And everything came, like the Buddha experienced hatred, lust, doubt, and he just kept sitting with it. And eventually that it sort of purified. So we can do that too. And that's the sort of great vision of the Dharma, the great vision of what the Buddha sort of saw was our potential. It's not just a potential for a Buddha, it's the potential for all human beings, this possibility of growth and transformation. And it starts right here, this body, like your body, your mind is the only place that you're going to find awakening and happiness and satisfaction. It's nowhere else. So in that sense, well, it's really exciting, isn't it? Because you've got everything you need, actually. And it just takes a bit of practice. Just a little bit of practice. It's good not to set the goal too far away, because you can think, oh, it's really far away. But actually, like, transformation can happen right here tonight. And you will have all have experienced that, otherwise you wouldn't be coming back. So you will have experienced transformation, and that transformation can keep happening. And if you keep practicing, those transformations will just keep unfolding, sort of deeper, sometimes more subtle, sometimes much more profound. And sometimes when the sort of the biggest difficulties can be the places where we experience the most transformation, and we see that we're not fixed, we're not so sort of, we don't need to problematize our experience. We can shift and change and grow. Sometimes when you feel the most stuck is when you can feel the most change. So let's give it a go. So we'll do a period of the Metta Bhavana, and see if you can just, when you notice that you're getting caught up in something or distracted, use that as a platform to sort of dive more deeply into your experience. And the way to do that is to come back to the body and back to this sense of a sort of really relaxed engagement with the body, with the breath. You can also use the breath to help you to centre in the body. And I would recommend that you go through the 5 stages of the practice. I'll remind us of the stages as we go, and just have a think now who you're going to include in the stages, so that you don't spend that time deciding who you're going to do. So have a think now, who will you put in those stages, so you can keep it really simple. So just settling down. And you can start by just feeling the stability through your body, your legs in contact with the ground, your sitting bones on the cushion. Let the spine rise up. And the shoulders can release down your back. When we try and pull an experience towards us or push an experience away, whether it's a thought or an emotional or physical sensation, we're blocking metta. So seeing if you can just welcome your experience, however desirable or undesirable it is. And keep holding that in this sphere of love, like your body can be this field of metta, this field of loving, kindly awareness. Just centering the practice either down in the belly or in the heart. And just taking the breath there. The Metta Bhavana. And in the first stage, metta for ourselves. Metta for a good friend. Metta for a neutral person. metta for a difficult person. Bringing to mind all four people, equalizing the metta. And allowing that to start to radiate out towards all beings. And now staying in your meditation posture, but just releasing all your efforts to meditate and just sitting. Okay, so we'll have a little tea break now, and in the second half, Sachaman will be talking a bit more about positive emotional resilience, how that can manifest in our lives and how we can cultivate that in our meditation practice as well. So yeah, we'll head out for a cup of tea and then we'll come back
Welcome from me as well. My name's Satya Manas, and Gaurav Bhatti and I will be doing sort of back to back for the whole of the challenge for another 2 weeks. And hello to those of you online. Welcome. So I'm going to be talking a bit about the second stage, emotional resilience, emotional positivity, or positive intent. I've got different names for it. I might use different ones at different times, but before I do some talking, I'm suggesting that we just do a very short practice just to help us kind of reorientate ourselves. So do you want to set up to meditate? So we will be doing the Metta Bhavana again later on this evening. So in a way, carrying on the thread from before the tea break. And then doing what you need to do to just help your body settle. So that might be relaxing your shoulders, that might be softening your hands or your face, around your eyes. That might be taking a few deeper breaths and feeling the weight of your body against the cushions or the chair. Whatever works for you, however way will settle your mind, settle your body. And then dropping down into a felt experience of the breath in your body. You might feel that around your belly. Noticing where your mind is, where it's going. Taking a deeper breath if you need to. Seeing if you can just stay present for a few moments. And just noticing what's happening with your posture. So how do you feel from the inside in your posture just now? Are you slightly caving in? Or perhaps you're slightly overarching. So finding this still point. This balanced effort with the breath. Noticing how your posture might be reflecting the state of mind you're in just now. Seeing if you can move with a positive intent. Towards just a little bit more openness. A felt sense around your heart area. And then you might want to intentionally broaden through your chest, Relax your shoulders a little bit more. Feel the in-breath around your heart. Noticing how you are in your body and mind at the moment, how the day has left you. Seeing if there's any emotional residue from how you've been recently. And just having a gentle awareness of that. There's a sensitivity towards yourself, curious sensitivity, tenderness. And then broadening out, opening, expanding that sensitivity to include other people. So each of us in this room is breathing right now. Having a sense of other people. A connection through your intention and your practice. Sense of collectivity in the room just now. And perhaps acknowledging that just as you want to grow and be free of difficulties and pain, you want to be happy and fulfilled. Same is true for everyone else here today. Expanding that intention, that reflection out to other people in your life, friends, family, colleagues. Also breathing. Also wanting fulfillment. Even the people that you find difficult, bringing them to mind as well. Breathing. And then having a sense that the breath is connecting you with everything that breathes. Not just people. Process of life. And 8 billion people alive just now, all breathing. And then letting go of any effort that you're making. And spending a moment just dwelling in your body and your mind. And then opening your eyes when you're ready. we're using this metaphor of a path and stages along a path. There are 5 stages in the spiritual path, or the system of practice that we follow here. But in a sense, they're not chronological. They're not really literally stages along a path. It's not like you finish one and then move on to the next one and you're kind of done with integration. All of them are life processes, processes that go on for all of us over lifetimes. Sometimes I can feel a bit of an imposter sitting up here with one of these on, talking about integration and emotional resilience and robustness. Because I'm very much in that process myself. Recently was ordained about a year ago. The whole ordination process for me was really an upheaval. It sort of brought up all kinds of different emotions, different reflections on my life, a different sort of sense of who I am, where I've come from, my conditions, my genetics in a way, sort of learning a little bit more about like where I come from and how my particular habits, so the things that I habitually do, the thoughts that I think, the actions that I act, the words that I say have sort of shaped my mind into a particular kind of way, and I'm sort of, here I am sort of left with that, and the whole of Buddhist practice really is acknowledging that, is acknowledging what we are, where we've come from, how we've ended up to be the way we are, and sort of working with that with this positive intent that we can change, as Samantabhadra was so eloquently saying in the announcement, this wonderful human capacity to change. Even studies have shown that even into old age our brains are still quite plastic. We can still learn, we can still adapt, we can still grow, we can still change at whatever age we're at. And what a wonderful thing, what an exciting thing to kind of imagine the potential of our minds to grow and connect and to develop. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about our emotions, emotional resilience, emotional robustness, emotional sensitivity. It's a bit of a paradox in Buddhism that we're trying to get more sensitive. We're trying to sensitize ourselves, to ourselves to start with, to our emotional life, to our thoughts, kind of tenderizing our own heart, sort of softening that critical edge, that kind of harsh critical edge that we can so often have towards ourselves. Sensitizing ourselves to other people as well, trying to sort of take in others a little bit more, listening to other people, trying to understand other people better, trying to have a better sense of where other people come from as well, what conditions make up them, how they've ended up the way they are. And also sort of sensitizing ourselves to our environment, so opening out through the senses. We've got these amazing flower arrangements on the shrine. I was just looking at them earlier, and just there's so much kind of wild life in them, isn't there? Feels it's very connecting to the natural world, having these on the shrine. Opening our hearts to beauty, opening our hearts to the kind of mystery and wonder of being alive. They can end up a bit cliches, those words, but I think really what I mean is just sort of waking up a little bit, being a little bit more alive to our surroundings. So a certain kind of sensitivity that we're learning through practice, and the Metta Bhavana in particular is a very useful practice to do that. But sensitivity and emotionality can sometimes feel a little bit sort of perhaps weak or wet, or kind of if you describe somebody as sensitive, and it's a bit derogatory in a way, isn't it? It's sort of saying they get blown around by things a lot, they get affected by things, they can't quite kind of hold themselves together. So then we have this counterpart, this sort of opposite, as it were, of resilience or robustness. And it's easy to get that one wrong as well. We have this expression, pull yourself together, don't we, in English, as if to say, we just need to sort of buckle up, tense up, keep calm, carry on, that kind of stiff upper lip British approach to difficulties, just to sort of smash through and, that whole thing of be a man and don't let your emotions get a hold of you. And it's really not that. It's really not that. Resilience is from a Buddhist perspective is really not that. From a Buddhist perspective, resilience is really about I suppose having the trust or even the faith, we do use this word faith in Buddhism, that actions of body, speech and mind, so even what you think is important, that come from a place of openness and generosity and honesty and I suppose kind of fullness of positive intent, will have a positive action, will have a positive outcome, for you, for the people around you, and more mysteriously for the world at large. So that's the teaching of karma in Buddhism, which is often something that's confused as well. So our intent is really what the important thing is. We can't just wish up happy emotions, can we? It would be great if we could suddenly just flick a switch and suddenly be happy. It's just not possible. Our minds are too mercurial, they don't work like that. But we can always have a positive intent. We can always, for example, be friendly, even if we're not feeling particularly loving ourselves at a particular time. It's always possible to be friendly. We do have a choice to be friendly all the time if we want to be. And there's a sense that what we're trying to do, and this is how it kind of links to integration, is reorientate this sort of negativity bias that is somehow wired into us. Evolutionary studies have shown how we're kind of wired towards looking for the negative. We look for threat, don't we? We're human beings are not particularly developed in terms of strength, so our skill in prehistoric times was probably running away, getting away from threat, and that's somehow wired into us. So with Buddhist practice, we're trying to acknowledge that a lot of the negative emotions that we experience come out of that state of threat. So our anxiety, our rumination, our hatred, our kind of embitterment, our resentment, indignation, even a kind of neurotic guilt, all these silly things which we get into but actually do have a very corrosive effect, come out of that sense of threat. So with Buddhist practice, we're learning a kind of fearlessness that there's no threat, it's okay. We're learning in a sense that there's nothing to defend. There's nothing to defend. There's no fragile self that you have to protect, and it's okay. And so that's quite radical in a sense, because so much of our lives can feel like Garavati was saying last week about gripping. We're just holding on to a sense of me and a sense of needing to protect me in the world. So Buddhism is saying you just let go of that, just relax in a sense, and open up to the possibility of different states of mind, of different states of being. So, firstly, kind of open-heartedness and friendliness, but out of those positive intents and actions can come a whole series of upwellings of blissful states of mind, rapture. The list goes up and up in the spiral path, and I feel myself to be right at the bottom of it, but definitely on there somewhere. And so it's sort of exciting that there's this possibility of opening up the mind more and more, and a spiral never really has an end. It just carries on going. I'll come back to that a bit later on. As I said, it's a whole life process. These stages. So we're talking about this second stage, but really they all intermingle, these stages. I wanted to talk this evening a little bit about forgiveness. So Mike Bandhu on Saturday was talking a little bit about forgiveness. He was saying he was concerned that we're living in times, quite unforgiving times. We don't easily let people off when they make mistakes. It's very easy to criticize other people these days because we're abstracted and we can do it in front of a computer screen mostly. We're very quick to judge other people in our society. We live in quite a judgmental society. And I think what that does often is it doesn't quite acknowledge our part in in the difficulties that we face and the difficulties that are in the world. It doesn't quite acknowledge when we blame other people and judge other people. It's sort of saying the problem is out there and the problem isn't in me. Of course, the problem is out there, but you have to also acknowledge that the problem is in me too. I guess that in sort of modern psychology and the way people talk a bit now, it's like you just have to sort of accept and be okay with yourself, and I'll accept and be okay with you. Buddhism is sort of saying, I'm not okay and you're not okay either, and that's okay. We can just, there is a way of accepting the fact that we've got difficult emotions. We're made up of these different forces, different tendencies that can be extremely destructive. Taken to their extreme. So to take seriously the kind of negative momentum of your mind and make a really positive intent to make a difference and change the world through changing yourself. So I wanted to mention this story that I read about many years ago. It's in a book called Challenging Times. Has anyone read that book? It's in the bookshop, I think. Yeah, it's a wonderful book. It's a collection of stories about how Buddhist practice has sort of helped people meet adversity with courage and use difficult situations, very, very challenging situations that these people were in, to transform their minds, to transform the way they see the world and themselves. And this particular story is the first one in the book I was particularly struck by. Is about a woman called Marion Partington, who was the sister of Lucy Partington. So Lucy Partington was one of 12 women, probably in the 80s, although they don't know exactly when, who was tortured, raped and murdered by Rosemary and Fred West. Does anyone remember that story? Yeah, a few people are nodding, yeah. So it sort of came to light in the 90s, I think, about 1994. It sort of came to light what had happened. But for about 21 years, they just didn't know what happened to her. So she went off to see a friend in Cheltenham, and she was due to get the bus back home again, and she never got on the bus, and she never came home. And so for 21 years, this poor family, obviously it's completely devastating, just didn't know what happened. So, eventually you just imagine the worst, don't you? But for about 7 years there was national searches and inquiries into it, and just nothing came to light. So this story of Marion, she kind of lived in anxiety. She was talking about how whenever any of her friends left, she was kind of concerned that she might never see them again. So she's sort of traumatized by the event, and kind of lived in this state of kind of tightness in a way, I suppose, tight kind of anxiety, fear, anger as well, I think was present for her. But this incredible transformation happened for her when Lucy's body was found. So the story came to light that Fred and Rosemary West was serial killers, and they found further bodies down in their basement that had been buried there essentially, and dental records showed that one of those bodies belonged to Lucy, and this rather than being something deeply shocking and sparking off kind of more further rage for Lucy and her family, it came as a kind of relief to have some sort of certainty about what happened. And they enacted these beautiful rituals of sort of taking what was left of Lucy, and she'd been kind of dismembered and beheaded and stuffed basically next to some sewage pipes, so there wasn't very much left of her. Of course, completely atrocious, devastating, what some human beings, well, I guess all human beings are capable of. So they went through this process, the family, but particularly her in the story, of coming to a place of forgiveness for the killers, which sounds pretty radical, doesn't it, in a way, being able to forgive those people that have enacted such a heinous and disgusting thing, such a horrible, atrocious thing to do. And this process happens over many years for Marion. So she was a Buddhist. She goes on retreats, and sort of what emerged from for her initially on the retreats was a kind of murderous rage, basically, that she describes as feeling completely visceral. She experienced this heat that was sort of welling up in her body, and it felt like it was exploding through her skull. And she realized on the retreat during a meditation that she was also capable of killing someone. She also has a kind of murderous impulse within her. She's also capable of committing something atrocious as well that is within all of us, all human beings. Nobody is particularly special here. We've all got the capacity for horrible things. She got interested through the help of her teachers on the retreat. On retreats, meditation retreats, you have meditation reviews, so you speak to one of the teachers about what's going on in your practice and what's kind of opening up for you. And one of the teachers really encouraged her to just stay with her emotional pain, to stay with her difficulty, her distress, stay with that felt body sense, actually, of all those emotions, rage and anger and indignation and sadness and all of that. And the teacher was really encouraging her, saying, this will be of benefit to other people, you doing this work. You doing this work, acknowledging the forces that are within you, acknowledging the pain that you're experiencing as a human being, that will be somehow of benefit to other people if you can stay with it and you can stick with the process and really kind of not come back up to the surface level. So that's what she did. She, over a series of years, she kept going back on retreat and just kind of opened up more and more to her emotional life, discovered a lot about herself, I guess. And there's this beautiful moment on one of the retreats where she actually brings to mind one of the killers, Rosemary West. And she's doing a metta practice, and she has this spontaneous kind of upwelling of deep compassion for this person that had killed her sister. Imagining her in prison, imagining her, this person had children as well, imagining her kind of estranged from her children, the shame, the judgment that was on that person, and that was a real breakthrough for her. So that kind of gave her a sense of what's possible when your heart can open, particularly to those that have done you wrong somehow. She actually experiences a kind of joy and connection, and that then led to her working in prisons, so going into prisons and working one-to-one, working therapeutically with people who were serving life sentences, basically. So I'm assuming kind of murderers and rapists and people that have really committed quite serious crimes. And it's very healing work, both for her and the people that she was working with, to do that, and helping people to, I suppose, acknowledge first of all their own pain and how their actions have sort of emerged out of that pain, and also the effects of their actions on other people. So particularly the people that they sort of did wrong through the crimes that they committed, but their families and their connections, etc. as well. So it's really helping people to see the consequences of their actions and see how how our actions can emerge from unresolved pain. We've all got unresolved pain from our childhoods or from we've all suffered in some way or another. Some of us probably more than others. Somehow through this life that we've had so far, we will have suffered, we will have unresolved pain on some level. And of course, taken to an extreme, unresolved pain, if it's not expressed, it can lead to depression and suicide, and so easily. We're seeing suicide rates in this country really, really escalating. It's just such a tragedy. And then, of course, if you act out of emotional pain, then that can also have devastating effects. Violence can come out of that. Domestic violence is also on the rise. So we desperately need to find a way of resolving the pain that we experience and learn to, I suppose, feel it, have the courage to feel it more fully, in the body primarily. So that we can, I suppose, be of benefit to other people. So emotional resilience, or this stage of emotional positivity, really emerges out of that. It's how it's kind of linked to integration in a sense. What we're trying to do is kind of replace, as I said, the tendencies that we have towards kind of destructive mental states towards more creative ones. So more creative states of mind might be states of forgiveness, for example. It's not easy to forgive, is it? And we can think that we've forgiven someone, and then 2 weeks later, suddenly we're in that state of resentment again, aren't we? And I've just got so much admiration and respect for this woman, Marion, who really stayed with her process. I can find myself in resentment quite easily. I tend to bottle up my emotions, and then they sort of often they emerge for me on retreat. So I go on solitary retreat quite often in very beautiful surroundings. So the place I like to go best is this place in Scotland, in the Scottish wilderness, with these bubbling brooks and lochs and amazing landscape and deer and wildflowers everywhere and pine trees and butterflies and all the rest. And sometimes I can find myself there and I'm just in this horrible state of resentment about something that somebody said before I got on the retreat. And I tried all kinds of things to rid myself of that. Some more successful than others, but it's such a shame, isn't it? It's such a tragedy to have, particularly on these retreats, have so much life around you and somehow be constricted and limited by negative states of mind. So it's an imperative, it's a real imperative, not just for you and your own states of mind, but for the world at large, that we work towards more emotional positivity, that we work towards more emotional robustness in a sense. And as I said, robustness comes out of that faith, that trust that if you keep acting skillfully, if you keep opening towards more generosity, more love, more connection, then things will emerge more positively for you. And that's the foundation of the Buddhist path, really. And there's a certain kind of trust that emerges over time. There's this link between dukkha and shraddha. So dukkha being suffering, shraddha being faith. When we can fully experience our dukkha, our suffering, then we open out towards more trust. It's the teaching of the wheel and the spiral. Do you know that teaching, the wheel of life? This sense of just going round and round and round on the same narrative, same story, same habits, same little bits where we fall down. And the way out of that path is through acknowledging our dukkha, through acknowledging our suffering. And from there the spiral emerges. The spiral goes up and up and up into more and more positive states, more expansive states of mind that can hold, become a vessel for all kinds of emotional difficulties. You become, I suppose, someone that can respond to difficulty when it emerges and not be overwhelmed by it, towards a state of enlightenment. Good. Okay, so we're going to do a short metta practice in 3 stages. So what I suggest is just set yourself up for meditation, and really what I'm going to encourage you to do is just however you are just now, there will be some element of unsatisfactoriness or suffering in your experience. Whether that's just a bit of body discomfort or perhaps something residual from your life at the moment or your day. Just encourage you to stay in touch with that in the first stage. Just be okay. You don't need to do anything about it. Just be okay with it. Hold it with a certain kind of tenderness. Hold it with a kind of positive intent. And then we'll do the friend stage, and just acknowledging your friend in the same way, that they too suffer, and that's okay. And then we'll open to somebody that has wronged us, so somebody that we find difficult, and just acknowledging that they're suffering as well in some way. Holding that positive intention. And then we'll open out towards all beings. Metta Bhavana. We're getting in touch with sensitivity and curiosity. With any sense of dissatisfaction or suffering in your experience. Whatever you're experiencing is okay, you can just allow yourself to feel it. Moving into the friend stage, connecting with your friend, acknowledging that they also suffer. They get caught in negativity, and they have difficulties. grounding in the breath, in your body, and moving into the stage where we acknowledge a difficult person in our life. Somebody that in some way or another we feel has wronged us, has hurt us somehow. Bringing them to mind. Seeing if we can acknowledge somehow our own part in the difficulty. What we're bringing to the situation. And then contacting, getting in touch with a sense of their suffering and how their suffering and their actions that have hurt us have emerged out of emotional pain or difficulty. And then letting go of that person and opening out again to other people. Other people here this evening. People that we might encounter at home this evening when we get back. Or tomorrow at work. Having a sense that they also suffer in some way or another. And then dropping any effort you're making. And opening your eyes when you're ready. So that's all we've got time for this evening. To have you all here. Thanks a lot for coming, and thank you to whoever put that rose in the incense bowl. Really added something. If you do want to come and make a little offering of some incense, you're very welcome to do that before you go. But otherwise, really look forward to seeing you next week. Garavati and I are going to be continuing this exploration, around the stages of the path. And probably going into a little bit more depth what it means to kind of let go of our limitations next week, so do come back for that. If you could put your mats and cushions away in the corners of the room, that'd be helpful. And if you haven't donated already, really encourage you to do that on your way out.